Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello. That was Scottish.
No, that was good.
No, that was really Scottish.
Today we are discussing Series 3, Episode 3, Friday the 14th. So grab a nice cup of typhoon and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 24th, 1983. Still airing after Wildlife on One with David Attenborough and still being followed by the 9 o'clock news. Viewing figures were holding strong from last week, still landing at 9.7 million. But from here on after, we will never see the viewing figures fall below 10 million. This was a big turning point. So Billy Joel's Uptown Girl, was now enjoying its third week as the UK's #1 song. In the world of movies, we were also seeing no changes. Never Say Never Again was, again, the UK #1 box office movie. We do have a cool on this day for November 24th, 1983. On this day, Terry Pratchett's The Colour of Magic was first published, which was the first book in the Discworld series. So, dude, do you have some episode trivia for us this week?
Yes, I do. So this episode is perhaps considered the only scary episode of Only Fools and Horses. Many report it at least scared them as a child, and you can most definitely hear some audience members screaming at points throughout the recording. That would be the live recording. It uses some horror movie elements, such as different camera shots to create an atmosphere that we're not seen in any other episode. And of course, we have the title. So John Sullivan said that he wanted to keep changing up the settings of his episodes so viewers wouldn't know what they were going to see week to week. So we can see this is a classic example of that. This is something that I remember the first time I saw this episode, it being like, whoa, it's so different. So
very different.
For locations that were back down in Dorset again, specifically back in Iwer and Minster again, for all of the rural exterior shots in this episode. So this seems to be fairly well known, but there was a scene cut from the final edit that took place during the drive down to the cottage. The scene is set for a pub country lunch, which includes an encounter with a country yokel, played by Michael Bilton. Funnily enough, I looked up Michael Bilton to see if he was credited or if he'd been in anything else that we might recognise, and it shows that he was a character called Arthur in Only Fools and Horses, but not in this episode. It's actually in the Jolly Boys outing, and the scenes were deleted. So, what bad luck from Michael Bilton. But he was known for the To the Manor Born or Waiting for God, but he never actually got to appear on screen in any episode of Only Fools and Horses. So, as always, I'll have other trivia to scatter throughout the episode breakdown. Shall we move on to this week's rankings?
Yes, let's do that. So if you are new here, first of all, you should probably subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday. Each week, we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode. So prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. So I am very curious to hear what Jenny's ranking is for this episode, because I know that she likes this episode. So let's see if she can give a high rank out, finally.
Oh yeah, good. Everyone likes this episode, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, so my ranking for this episode is 12.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's what I ranked a losing streak.
Yes, I remember. Oh, that's what I thought. When you went, then I thought that you were going to say me too, like you have before.
Well, almost, actually, dude.
All right, then just tell me yours then.
So yeah, I ranked this episode as 11.
Oh, wow.
It's one higher than a losing streak.
That's so close. Yeah, okay, so we are almost the same ranking for this one then.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I mean, you just said a little bit about why you ranked this episode so highly in the trivia even. There's mentions of sort of why it might be higher, but what's your reason for ranking this so high?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that it is going off the normal course. Like, it's different to every other episode. It's kind of a standalone. Lots of people have this in their high rankings, I think, just from looking on the internet and reading about it. It's memorable because, yeah, it does have a little bit of Nelson Mandela, which a lot of the others that aren't really set in London don't have much, but there's that little starting scene, but then mostly we were in a different location. We're out in the countryside, but it's got all the atmospheric aspects. It's very memorable. I personally I really enjoy it. I really like the banter. I like the fear and the tension and stuff, and the fact that you don't know, like, if the axe murderer is out there. Like, I just enjoy it. I don't know. I think it's a very fun episode, but I think it's really well written. I don't think it's just all those things. I think the script is great.
Yeah, I agree with you on pretty much everything you just said. And yeah, for me personally, on top of that, it's because I love horror films.
Yeah.
And I always loved horror films, even when I was younger. And I think, yeah, this episode it gave me like Carry On Screaming vibes.
Right.
When I was younger, because those were sort of the two comedies that had a horror sort of episode, if you like, this, and a horror film, obviously, for Carry On Screaming. And I absolutely adore the mix of the two, the comedy and the horror, I think is wonderful. And as you say, there's some parts in this that are genuinely quite unsettling, actually, which we'll get into later. But also, yeah, there are some wonderful scenes. Spoilers, the Monopoly bit.
Oh yeah, you love the Monopoly.
We'll talk about that a bit later on. Yeah, so I agree. I think this is a great episode. It's a solid episode, and the writing is great, and it's something different. So everything you just said. So what was the IMDb ranking for this one?
Yeah, pretty close to both of ours. The IMDb ranking was number 16.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 13. That would have been
Yeah, I was thinking maybe one of us would have it as 14, but we don't. So
no.
I guess you could say the average is almost 14. This is the first time that you, me, and IMDb have all had such close and such high rankings for an episode.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, usually we don't agree. No, IMDb and I agree, but you don't agree with that.
That's right, yeah. You and IMDb have had quite a few similars before. I've been similar to IMDb, but never this high up before. So, yeah, we're all really high on this,
yeah.
I think, so we can say we agree. I love it, you love it, and the general reception from the audience is that they love it.
Okay, so shall we go ahead and start the episode breakdown, dude?
So this episode opens at the flat at Nelson Mandela House. The first shot that we see is Rodney just sitting at the table eating a Chinese takeaway, and Grandad is watching the TVs. The door opens and Del comes in through the door behind Rodney, but all we see is the fishing net go over Rodney's head. So the first thing I mention here is that is not in the script, so perhaps that was just another improvisation in the moment by David Jason. So Del announces that they are going away fishing for the weekend in Tregower, which, by the way, is a fictional place, but it's meant to be in Cornwall, which we know is not fictional. So Rodney and Grandad both say, Cornwall? I looked it up on Google Maps because I couldn't figure out how far away this was. I know we went to Cornwall when we were kids, but it says it'd be about...
Oh, God, yeah. When I was a baby, though, I don't remember.
You were a baby. Yeah, I wasn't, but I don't remember it either. But it says it'd be about 4.5 hour drive from Peckham to Cornwall. Of course, that's just general Cornwall, but yeah, it's still quite a long way. But Del explains that they're going to Cornwall because that's where Boise's cottage is. So we don't get to see Boise in this episode, but we do get a mention of him. And interestingly, this is the first reference to him in Series 3 and the first time that we've referred to him since a losing streak. So it's kind of laying the ground that they are still, we know that not only are they still friends, but they're maybe friends again after the whole debacle of a losing streak, if you want to look into it. But yes. Del mentions that they had dinner last night at Mario's, and they discussed Del using the cottage for free. So, yeah, we're back with Boise being his friend now. Or maybe we're seeing Boise being his friend for the first time. I mean, I know they were friends in Go West, Young Man, right?
Yeah, I feel like Go West Young Man is the only episode we do really see them as friends, because even this situation, I mean, Boise's only letting him use his cottage so he can make money out of him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's really a friend thing necessarily.
I mean, it's a pretty good deal, to be honest, if they're gonna, if they're gonna do what he says, like with the split in the money. Del gets a free holiday and a fun cottage, I mean, back in those days, it was quite a nice thing to lend out your holiday home, right? Now it's like home swapping all over the place. But I think for the Trotters, we've had a great weekend. So. But anyway, Grandad and Rodney are suspicious. Rodney says,
Boise would scalp you if dandruff had it going right.
So we still know that Boise has that reputation as being his old self, kind of a schemer.
Yeah.
But then Rodney clicks that
Mario's is a fish restaurant.
I love the way that he always pulls apart all of Del's plans.
I was going to say, I love how immediately suspicious Rodney is. Like, it happens almost instantly as soon as he says he's been out, like, for a dinner with Boise.
Yeah.
His face already shows how suspicious he is. And yeah, we get this routine a lot. Every time Del comes up with anything, Rodney's, like, straight in with a suspicion.
Yeah, and Del does his usual deflective thing where he goes, oh, is it? And then he, like, carries on with his normal stuff. But then Rodney says,
Bit of a coincidence, Del, innit? You meeting him in a fish restaurant, and the next thing we're all going fishing.
so Del says he's like Elliot Bleeding Ness at times. So just quickly, Elliot Ness was the leader of a team of law enforcement agents nicknamed the Untouchables. He was a prohibition agent who in the early 1900s was known for bringing down Al Capone. Now, when else do we get a mention of Al Capone?
It is Miami twice. Al Capone. Public enemy number one. They only left Tuesday.
Maybe Elliot Bleeding Ness can bring down Don O'Keefe. Anyway, Del tries to pretend that he was going to surprise Rodney and Grandad, and now Rodney has spoiled it. But the plan is that they're going to go salmon fishing and make money off of the trip. So Mario will be buying the fish and Boise and Del are going to split the profits. So I guess we see that Del and Boise are working together, like we previously mentioned. It is the beginning of a thing that goes on, isn't it? Del and Boise do scheme together. They have business deals and they both consider themselves like very shrewd businessmen. So this is the beginning.
And they both stab each other in the back and rip each other off.
Yes. There's lots of that for the future. But this is the first time we really see them doing business together for mutual gain, right?
Yes, it does seem to be. Yeah.
Shame Boise wasn't in this episode, but Rodney obviously disapproves. He says it's illegal and starts putting up barriers. Del says they're going to get down there and slip the gamekeeper 20 quid. So here we get a classic Grandad line.
It's called business.
It's called stealing.
No, it ain't, Rodney.
Listen to your granddad.
It's called poaching.
So we get a normal end to the scene where Rodney gives up all of his morals when he's convinced for money. So any notes on the scene, dude?
Yeah, just a couple of little things. So the Del rushing off when he's been caught out and he's, trying to rush out the door when Rodney's questioning him. I feel like that has happened before or it happens after this. And I just couldn't put my finger on the moment that is similar to. So if anyone in the comments wants to remind me of when that was, but that situation where Rodney's questioning him and Del's like, yep, see you later, and like heading out the door. Maybe not even Rodney questioning him, but like Raquel. Is it like the bit with the alarm clocks I'm thinking of when he's like rushing out the door and Raquel's talking to him?
Maybe.
I'm not sure, but I feel like that happens before or after this. So yeah, if someone can point out when that is, that would be great. And I wonder why they don't correct Del every time he does the maths wrong, because he does this so many times when he says
That'll be 300 sovs in our pocket. Now we split it 3 ways. That means that you and Grandad get £50 each.
It's a recurring joke, but you would think at this point that Rodney and Grandad would say, no, we're having an equal share, but they always just kind of brush over it. But again, I guess that's the humour. I also wonder, at this point, we've seen Del say so many ideas and schemes to Rodney, and he always has the same reaction of like, being suspicious or judging him. And I just wonder, why does Del keep inviting Rodney to be involved? Why doesn't he just stop including Rodney and go away with Grandad and do everything with Grandad?
Well, he's probably...
It would save him a lot of hassle and money.
I was going to say, in this case, he's probably, like, if we actually had seen them go fishing, it probably would have been Rodney and Grandad doing all the work, while Del just sat in a deck chair with his feet up, right?
True, yeah, that's true. That's the only reason he includes Rodney, I guess. But, like, for the earache he gets from Rodney, I'm surprised he keeps inviting him to things. But, yeah, that's all I wrote for that scene.
Yeah, actually, I just had another thought before we move on, and that is that if you only started watching this episode and just saw this scene, obviously you're going to think this whole episode is about them doing, like, a deal with the fish and the Marios and everything. It's like, there's absolutely no indication in this first scene of what's to come. It's, like, very interesting, the twist it takes, because there's absolutely barely any mention of the fishing after this, apart from they talk about why they're there with the fishing rods, but they don't actually go fishing. And we only see them there for the first night. We never see them at the cottage during the day or anything. So, but anyway, so we cut, and it's a long shot of them on the motorway. So we just see the van tootling along, and we can hear the voices, and we see the fishing rods tied to the roof. So just like in a touch of glass, we're getting that long shot of the van traveling. Rodney's singing.
I'm poaching, left a sign up on the door. Gone poaching,
First of all, the first time I heard that part, I didn't think that was Rodney singing.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it just sounded, because it doesn't really sound like him. It's very deep. And it could be any song. So it's only at the end when Del says,
You keep on, Rodney, and you're going to get a smack right in the ear hole.
And the other thing I wanted to ask, is that based on a song
Yeah.
a famous song and he's changing the lyrics? Because I don't know the song.
Yeah, it's called Gone Fishing.
Gone fishing, there's a sign upon your door.
Yeah, so this, I think, is where the deleted scene is supposed to slot in. Because towards the end of the deleted scene, as we'll see in a minute, there is a mention of the storm. Because the next scene after this, it's already raining.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no mention of the escaped patient either in this scene. So
No, right? Okay. I had the idea that maybe we would read through the deleted scene, but let's see how this goes.
you play Del and Rodney because I think you can do their accents better than me. I'll try and do Grandad and the yokel.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if the yokel sounds Scottish or Irish.
Okay, I'm going to read the whole thing actually with all the background. So film, it says, exterior day, a country pub, village green. So this is one of those idyllic scenes straight off of a postcard. Outside the old pub, we have a couple of tables and chairs. The van is parked close by. At one of the tables, we have an old rustic type puffing on a pipe. And at the other table sit Del and Grandad. Del is still wearing his camel hair coat, etc. So Del lights a cigar. This is what it's all about, isn't it, Grandad? Eh? This is your real England.
It's lovely, isn't it? And it's so clean and all.
I'll tell you what, shall I? Because the people out here have respect for their environment, throwing his empty cigar packet away. Men went away in the war and fought and died for this.
I know. I almost did.
You almost died?
No. I almost went away and fought for it.
Oh, yeah. I love this life, though. This is what nature intended. Freshly baked bread, beer from the wood, and honest food straight from God's good earth. Rodney exits from the pub carrying a tray of drinks and pints. They've never heard of a pina colada and they don't do pizzas. Don't do pizzas? Stone me. What sort of a dead and alive hole is this? Shh. Morning.
Afternoon.
This deep sea diver's watch still ain't working right. Leave off, Rodney. He's trying to tell the time by the sun.
But it's hardly bloody Tim, is it?
He's right and all. Lovely weather for a bit of sheep shearing, innit, eh?
Oh, fine weather. Soon be turning, though.
Will it?
You mark my words, sir. Before the night's out, there'll be a storm, the likes of which you've never seen before. There'll be thunder that'll wake the dead from their sleep. Rain and flooding, and a wind a-howling so fierce you'd think it came from the mouth of Satan himself.
Del and Rodney look at each other and react.
Still, it'll be good for the flowers, won't it?
Del gives Grandad a damning look. How do you country people know these things? Is it because all the cows are lying down, or can you tell by the clouds? The yokel turns to Rodney and we can see that he has an earpiece connected to a radio.
No, I just heard the forecast on Radio 4.
Rodney reacts. Come on, drink up. And that's it.
I hope everyone appreciated our acting.
So we cut to the van in a storm. So the weather looks awful. The van is being driven down a street and we see them get pulled aside by a policeman with a torch. Grandad says,
Someone bubbled up about them salmon.
So Del winds down the window and greets the policeman. He immediately brings up the tax disc. So this policeman was played by Ray Mort, who is perhaps best known for the movie Pink Floyd The Wall. He actually passed away in 1994. So this policeman has a very strong Cornwall accent. He asks if they're down for a bit of fishing and they all get defensive and say no. So he asks why they have 3 fishing rods tied to their roof rack. As usual, Grandad cannot play it cool at all. So Rodney tries to, casually say,
Oh, no, because you remember we said we might do a little bit of fishing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I might do, just a little bit, tiddlers.
No salmon, no.
Grandad always ruins it, doesn't he?
Yeah, which we've talked about before. So luckily for them, the police officer is disinterested in their stories. He's actually pulled them over for a very serious warning. He's letting them know that they just had word that a patient has escaped from a local hospital. Rodney says,
What you got out here, National Health Stalags?
I don't understand that line. What does that mean?
So a stalag is it's a term that was used for a German prisoner of war camp. So it's basically making it sound like they've got the patients in prisoner camps, when you say a patient escaped from the local hospital without any context, it kind of sounds like, why would you escape from hospital? Although anybody that's
true.
been in hospital in the UK might feel like they want to.
They do want to escape from. I was going to say not just the UK. I've been in hospital in Hong Kong. And it's certainly a place I wanted to leave as quickly as possible.
Right. I wish I could.
I can't think of anyone who likes being in hospital. I mean,
No, but yeah, most of the time people are too ill to escape. So yeah, but the officer lets him know that this is no ordinary hospital and it's an institute for the criminally insane. He was able to escape because the storm knocked out the hospital's security systems. So I love the way that the officer describes the escape. It's so horror movie. Like, this is where the storyline really kicks off.
Yeah.
So he says,
So this patient took his chance and made off across the moors. He's out there somewhere now. For all I know, he could be watching us.
Del asks what he was in there for, and we get the classic thing that would put the frights up you.
10 years ago, this very night, he killed a party of weekend fishermen.
So I noticed here that, and I'm pretty sure you won't know this because you didn't read the script. So after he says that, he has another line that I didn't know was there until I read the script because it's blocked out by the laughter. It's completely drowned out.
oh, what is
Yeah,
it?
have you always noticed that Del says, I must have been out that night? Like, it didn't really make sense. Because at the very end where he says, he killed a party of weekend fishermen, he says, you might have seen it on the TV. I have never heard him say that. But I always did.
No,
I did
neither
notice
have I.
that Del says, I must have been out, which didn't quite make sense.
Because they said they called him the axe murderer.
Right.
And then
That's
he
right,
says-
yeah.
Is that when he says they must have been out? I must have been out that
Yeah,
night?
so whenever Del says, I must have been out, the line is right before that. I can't remember if he says, yeah, he killed a party of weekend fishermen. They called him the axe murderer. And then he might have said, yeah, you've probably seen it on TV. And then Del says,
No, I didn't know. I must have been out that night.
I thought he was just saying, like, have you heard of him? Like, but that was kind of implied by the question, so I didn't realize there was another question.
well, you know how Del always says as well, like he always says, oh, I was out or I didn't see it or whatever to pretend that he knows about stuff. This is something that he actually could have seen on the TV if he'd been in. So it's not him lying.
True.
Like 10 years ago, he might have been like what, in his like late 20s? How he's supposed to be in his like 37 now. So yeah, he could have seen it on TV, but he probably wasn't watching on TV.
Well, also, if it happened in Cornwall as well, it's probably not something that would have mattered as much. Not that Cornwall doesn't matter, but that's what it sounded like. I just
Yeah,
said.
so it doesn't matter. It's only Cornwall. Yeah, I actually put a note.
Sorry to the people of Cornwall, I didn't mean that.
I just think I'm not sure because in those days, like as we've discussed before, there wasn't that many TV channels, and obviously the news would have been a pretty big part of people's lives. But whether or not they would report in London City about every little thing that happened, I'm sure it would have been in the TV, but not a major
I
headline.
mean, it is a
maybe.
pretty horrific thing to happen that you butcher 3 people to death for no reason.
Right, and it was in
you're
the
a maniac.
80s.
You're a psycho. So yeah.
Yeah. So I put a note here, like, wouldn't this have been just a great time in reality for him to tell them that the escape man stole all the chief of security's outfit?
I know. Oh yeah. Of course, there's so many plot holes
Yeah.
in this whole thing. Yeah, it's You know, I'm gonna say this stuff too. Yeah.
I don't care because I still love the episode. But this would have been the prime moment for him to be like, by the way, if you do see him, he's going to be dressed like the chief of security.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been the first thing that people would have put out there, like when they were making the announcements about this man and have you seen him? It would have been he's going to be dressed as the chief of security and calling himself Robson, the chief of security, FYI.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
finally, he says,
And if you see or hear anything suspicious, phone the police immediately. Your lives may depend on it. Right, gentlemen. Have a nice weekend, won't you?
I love the way that ends. Yeah, the whole setup is fantastic. I agree. And that whole sort of conversation, their reactions, brilliant. Yeah.
and then just to finish off, we see just the inside of the van. Grandad and Rodney are just in complete disbelief that they're planning to go on. Like, Grandad's face is so funny because
I know.
he has just amazing just look of horror as he waits for Del's instructions. And then Del insists that they are going to go on because they're on a 300 quid earner.
Anyway, there's 3 of us. It's me and you.
Don't worry, I'll look after you.
So here, I guess we're to believe that Del is not scared at all, which is in keeping with his like parental character. But Grandad and Rodney are clearly both very edgy, so they continue on.
Yes.
Okay, then we are going to cut to the cottage, so we have an establishing shot of the cottage with a big classic lightning flash. And the van pulls up down the path, like wobbling all over the place, and the storm rages on. We see from a distance that the trotters are getting out, but we, the audience, get to see that there is a man watching them from the bushes, heavily breathing. Yeah. and he grabs a tree branch and like pulls it aside so he gets a better view. So this is audience perspective, obviously, but now we know as the audience that this episode is no longer about fishing and poaching. As we enter, we can hear that Rodders and Grandad are still very scared, and Rodney says that he saw something outside. It's quickly established that there's no power because the storm has knocked it out, so the room's very dark. Rodney says he's going to phone the law, and Del grabs him and stops him because...
And I'd like to say, how?
Yeah.
The power is out.
Well, actually, dude, is it... Those phones would still work. Because it does work later in the episode. It's that...
That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't. If the power's out,
no,
the
because
phone shouldn't work.
Those phones are different. They're not like plugged in, right? Those ringy phones from the 80s, they don't get plugged in. It was only when digital phones came out that you had to plug it in. Those ones just run through...
But surely they need some sort of power to work, don't they?
No, because it's like the old phone line signal where it's all through the wire.
But even if it's like old phone lines, like they would have gone down in a storm like that, surely.
If the phone line went down, but the phone line didn't. The phone line is still connected. It's only the power that...
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the phone would have gone down. If the storm is that bad that it knocked out this security system, I can't believe the phones didn't get affected.
Well, they got lucky there. But I'm just saying it doesn't rely on the...
They certainly did.
It doesn't rely on the power, though, like the electricity.
Any phone technicians listening to this, please let us know.
Del grabs that phone and stops Rodney calling, reminding that they're down doing a bit of
Fishing?
But Rodney's still determined that the copper said to call him immediately if they see or hear anything suspicious. So here we've got a classic line. Del says,
All right, then, who have you seen, Hawkeye?
I saw a movement in the trees.
A movement? Of course you've seen a movement in the trees. There's a ruddy typhoid blowing out there.
It's a typhoon.
Ah, good idea, Rodney. Put the kettle on, we'll have a nice cup of tea.
So Rodney's too afraid to go into the kitchen. So Del goes in. And here we get another horror movie shot. So we see him in the darkness getting the water, saying everything's fine. And a flash of lightning allows us to see that there is a figure looming outside the kitchen window. So this is where the
No ghosty little ghoulies in here, Rodney.
Yeah. So the audience reactions like really start to pick up now. You get lots of jump scares in this episode, but you hear the audience like laughing and jumping. So we hear Grandad calling back from the living room.
Girl boy, come in here quick. Rodney's found something.
Monopoly. Oh, now we are all doomed.
But it's actually an axe, so Del tries to play it down, but now all the fear is renewed in Rodney and Grandad. They think that the chopper is a sign that the escaped patient is there in the cottage. So Rodney asks Del,
All right, let me ask you something. Where do you think that escaped bloke is right now?
Probably out there on them moors.
In this weather?
Well, he's mad, isn't he?
Well, he might be mad. He'd have to be bloody stupid to be out
Rodney creates the fear that the escaped lunatic is upstairs because the cottage was empty before they arrived, so he looks fearfully upstairs. They think that he's up there having a kip. Here we get two references to fairy tales. So Del tells Grandad that...
Well, I shouldn't let it worry you, Grandad, because the three bears have probably eaten him by now.
All right, then. Well, why don't you go up the wooden hill to Bedfordshire and check it out?
That's a reference to the stairs that I remember from childhood. Do you remember that, dude?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the sort of most recent reference I've ever heard to that since Only Fools and Horses is in Bridget Jones' Diary. She says it. She says, I'm going to Bedfordshire.
I did try to look up how the origins of this phrase, and it goes back really far. So there are there are references in poetry and literature as far back as the 1600s for Bedfordshire being used as an extension for bed. But then also many references to the wooden hill as a metaphor for stairs, which sort of started in the 1800s. There was a poet...
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's really old. There's a poem called The Christmas Tree, which was published in 1880 that contained both Wooden Hill and Bedfordshire. So some feel that the first occurrence of the phrase "up the wooden hill to Bedfordshire" was used in the song written by Nixon Gray, who was a Welsh songwriter comedian with the same title, where he was quoted as saying that he heard the phrase already being used by his landlady. So it's like an old British term. Like, people said it even before it was like common to say it in literature and stuff. It was just a said thing. So I remember Mum and Dad saying it when we were kids.
I think most British people probably are familiar with that phrase.
Yeah. Del doesn't want to go upstairs. He reasons,
No, I don't have to. No, I mean, listen, would any self-respecting axe-murderer pop upstairs for 40 winks and leave his chopper in the sideboard?
the ridiculing carries on, and Del manages to convince Rodney that if he's upstairs, then he can't also be outside, which for some reason makes Rodney feel better. So
I don't get that at all. I would think I was wrong that I saw him outside and he must be inside. That's what I'd think, because that would make more sense.
Well, that, or you'd still be scared that he's outside. Because, like...
but either way, it doesn't
it doesn't
work.
make sense. But then Rodney says...
Oh, he's most probably halfway to London by now.
Yeah, of course he is. He's most probably looking for an empty place up there.
Hope we don't find our flat.
That is so something that I would think as well. Like, well, no, if he's gone to London, then he might end up at my...
I mean, you think about how difficult it would be to find that flat amongst all the other council houses on that estate. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And especially knowing now that it's 4.5 hours away.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that that the guy found them in the cottage.
Yeah.
So, it could happen.
Yeah. So Del tries to get everyone to calm down, agree that they are safe and sound, which they do. So Rodney does this really hilarious body positioning here where he kind of casually tries to lean back on the cabinet and tap his hand while he's still holding the axe, which I think is so funny.
Yeah, Nick Lyndhurst's body language. Well, all of them, but yeah, Nick Lyndhurst's body language is fantastic. Consistently fantastic.
This is obviously a very physical episode for all three actors, but yeah, the jumpiness and the way that they act when they're sort of all standing in the cottage is so good. So Del wonders where the toilet is, and Rodney says it's outside, so Del goes to have a look. He opens the door and he's scared and closes it, so he says he'll wait till the morning. So we see Del is not actually as comfortable and confident as he says, but he's playing a part to keep Rodney and Grandad calm. So anything else on that scene, dude?
So yeah, I just said unique location, the horror film vibes are wonderful. I also wanted to mention about the way Rodney looks in the kitchen is exactly how I look in places when I'm afraid of my phobia. That's exactly what I do as well when I go into a dark room. I think the viewers already know what my phobia is, but you can say it if you want to, because I feel like if I say the word, I'm going to call them.
Oh, right, yeah. So Heather has arachnophobia. Yeah, you're right. He just pops his head around the corner.
Extreme arachnophobia, I should mention.
Yes.
So yeah, I thought you were going to say the S word, but you didn't, so that's good. I also... I wonder why the gamekeeper didn't just knock after he saw them arrive and go to the door and ask what they were doing there, but instead went looking through the windows when he knew there was an escaped mental patient. Well, what did he exactly expect to happen, Right,
exactly. So obviously we know that this is set up for the audience to think that the gamekeeper is the murderer. But yeah, if you were just the gamekeeper, why is he lurking like that around the edge of the building?
Yeah.
And I think I've put that a bit later in my notes, but yeah, he's like standing outside the kitchen window in a storm, like pouring rain, looking in the window. I mean,
knowing that there's a guy on the loose from a mental asylum. I mean, presumably he knows. Everyone in the area knows, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, even if like he was hoping to catch them out, he's not going to catch them fishing in the night in the house, is he? So
exactly.
Maybe he was thinking he would overhear a conversation where they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to go poaching tomorrow." But I don't know.
I don't even know. Yeah, it doesn't make. Obviously, it makes sense for the context that it's meant to be a setup that he's the escape guy, and we're supposed to think that, and then it twists at the end. But yeah. Obviously, in reality, that makes no sense at all that he does that. And I can't believe they didn't check upstairs. I would have made us all go up together and check all upstairs, because how could I relax downstairs and play Monopoly in the next scene thinking without checking upstairs that guy, because he might be there. I mean, you never know.
Right.
And I put an outside toilet. That would be my worst nightmare given my arachnophobia.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But that's pretty common in those days.
Yeah.
All right, let's cut to later in the evening then. So the Trotters are all settled in a little bit and they're all playing Monopoly. So now, I want to hear from the punters on this one. Did you and your family play Monopoly, and was it like this? Because this whole scene brings back a lot of childhood memories of tantrums and competitiveness from playing Monopoly. So they're playing the traditional London Monopoly here. There's a million versions.
The ultimate argument game.
Just a little bit of trivia about Monopoly, because I didn't know this, and this is quite cool. The game was first released by Parker Brothers in 1935, which was an American company that became Hasbro in 1991. And the original properties were named after places in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So the first UK edition was made by Waddingtons in 1936, although all versions were derived from a game that was actually called The Landlord's Game, which was created in 1903 by American game designer, writer, feminist, and Georgist Lizzie Maggie. Yeah, I didn't know, first of all, that it was created by a woman, and I didn't know that it was in America before the UK. I think I always thought it was an English game.
I always thought it was an English game. Yeah, I always think of it as being like a traditional old British game. That's interesting.
Yeah. This scene is hilarious and memorable. So it completely breaks the horror movie tension for a little while, and we forget that there's a madman out there on the loose. Del tries to do very classic Del things, like charging Rodney extra to stay in the penthouse suite, and Grandad refuses to pay his hotel dues because Piccadilly is next to it.
Smelly old water works.
We see Rodney getting more and more frustrated, acting like a kid. Del and Grandad appear to band together, so Rodney ends up flinging the entire board up in the air.
Stupid bloody gun!
I observed this, which I've never really listened to before, that while Del and Grandad are down on the floor picking up all the pieces, if you listen in the background, you hear Del keeps trying to keep all the money that he finds.
Yes,
Yeah.
I wrote that down as well. I said I love the improv between Del and Grandad talking about the Monopoly pieces when Rodney looks out the window.
Yes.
I listened to that as well, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds really improvised because it's not in the script. And yeah, Del's like, "Is there any money down there? That's mine." But then it carries on with,
that's mine.
Yeah,
That's
and he
right.
talks about the car and the top hat. So yeah, at this point,
totally.
Rodney casually goes to look out of the window. So it does say in the script that he goes to the window, if for nothing else, something to do, which I always did think it was weird the way he walked over to the window. There's no point.
Yeah.
But he walks over to the window, opens the curtain back really, really abruptly.
Yes.
So this is where a woman in the audience actually screams. So there's a man pressed up against the glass, staring straight inside with a scrunched up face.
And he doesn't flinch at all when Rodney stares at him, which again is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You so would, because he'd have seen Rodney and been like, oh, and like tried to get out of the way or something, or at least reacted in some way. He's like a statue.
Yeah, definitely just for the comedy and the horror movie value. Rodney calmly tries to tell Del and Grandad that, but at first they don't take him seriously. So he's saying,
Del, there is a man at the window.
You what?
There is a man at the window.
He ain't got back in a shabby leather, has he?
Del tries to downplay it again. He goes over to the window and he also pulls the curtains aside, just like Rodney did, except he does the head dodging move like he did in
Yeah, that's really funny.
Ashes to Ashes. But the man is gone. So Rodney says,
He was there, Del, I swear to you. My face was only inches from that glass.
What did he look like?
Horrible. He had these evil eyes and this grotesque evil face.
Maybe it was a reflection.
Del and Grandad
Yes.
both try to convince Rodney that his imagination is playing tricks on him. So Grandad even suggests that it could be the shadows in the trees, Rodney. Then there is a very abrupt banging at the door and all three characters freeze. Great physical comedy.
Oh, I
Yeah.
felt the tension in that moment when I was a kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really scary to me, that moment, because they all look absolutely terrified. And as you say, the banging is really intense. It's not like a little knock on the door. It's a proper like dun dun dun.
Right, and I think the wall moves too, but that's believable in an old cottage. So,
That'll be the set.
so Grandad says,
I think there's someone at the door.
No, it's most probably just the shadows.
so the voice at the door is quite posh, and he says that he's the chief of security at the institution. So Rodney's immediately about to just open the door when Del pulls him back and makes him think twice. So we get this very hilarious slapstick moment where Del has a plan that Rodney doesn't understand with the door. So he's supposed to open the door and let Rodney look, but Rodney doesn't understand, so he just opens the door and slams it back in the guy's face. But Rodney is in this really funny like battle stance when he does that, so but he doesn't move. So they try it again. Rodney looks so closely at the chief's face, it's hilarious.
Yes.
So
right in his
right in his face. So when they do finally open the door, the chief actually stands back, finally, afraid to come in. And Del's like, come on in.
When they ask who he is, he says
My name's Robson. I'm Chief of Security at the institution.
he's assuming that they know what the institute is.
Right.
That alone should give it away that it's a bit weird, because he doesn't say like, oh, I'm from a mental health institution with there's a man on the loose. I've just come to check on you guys.
It's true, yeah. I mean, he is basing it on the fact that they know. Maybe he knows that the police are out, like, telling everyone to be careful. I don't know. I mean, he must,
Yeah,
right?
but these guys, I mean, they're in a cottage, you know, on their own. I mean, who knows? They might have been there, you know, sleeping, or they might have been there all day and no one's come by. Who knows, right? I mean, presumably he chose there because it's so isolated. So I just think it's interesting that he assumes that they know.
This is one thing that's interesting. I mean, it's very easy to make the assumption, isn't it, that like, and the audience is set up to believe this, that the escaped man is crazy and wild and he's out on the moors in the rain, and he's the gamekeeper guy that's been lurking in the rain. So when we see and hear this very posh, very together, obviously knows the system, like he knows that he has got to show the ID, that he's got to be like, oh, like, you know, the police are working on this. They can't possibly fathom that this could be the guy. So he's obviously a lot smarter than people assume. He's not even like soaked or anything. He's all like put together and neat. Like,
But you just say pouring weather.
no, it's appalling. I told you. I know we have a disagreement on this, but it says it in the script. It's appalling weather, not pouring weather.
I stick by it. It sounds like pouring weather.
It does, but it's appalling weather.
Appalling weather. Yeah.
So here we have the chief of security, who was played by Christopher Malcolm. A couple of things that you might recognize him from, dude. He played Sarah's dad in Labyrinth.
Oh, did he? It's a much younger version of him, though.
But he's also American accent in that movie. But yeah, he was also Rebel Force Zev, or Rogue 2 in The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes,
so
that I recognize him from. Yes, I do.
So he is actually Scottish. So I don't know what his real accent sounds like, but he starts out here obviously with a very well-spoken accent, moves on to his madman voice, but he's clearly very good at accents. I mean, why would he be hired to play a dad in an American movie? He's Scottish. Because he's so tall and everything, he's got great screen presence in this episode. As the audience, we actually feel relief for the Trotters, don't we? So the man has all the ID that he needs, and he seems like he knows what he's doing. Del asks a few questions, prompting the chief to say,
We have the entire police forces of 3 counties out looking for him.
So he asks the Trotters if they've seen anything, and this leads them back to the face at the window again. The chief repeats Del's earlier comment, asking Rodney,
You're quite certain it wasn't a reflection?
and then he basically gives the Trotters the information that they want to hear. He tells them that the other guy, like the face at the window, was the madman.
Sounds like my man.
That's like very like quick, and he's just like, oh yeah, you're perfectly safe now. The madman would have run away as soon as he saw the uniform. So this to me is the first moment that he breaks a little bit of his character, because he's like saying,
It's the uniform, you see. He's terrified of people in authority. Well, after 10 years in an institution, who wouldn't be?
you start to see a little bit through the veil. Like he's got such sympathy for the guy, but it's only a smidge at this point, and the Trotters wouldn't pick up on it because you believe what you want to hear. And if somebody in a uniform comes in and says you're fine, like you'll be like, okay, I'm fine. Whew, what a relief.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's all you've been waiting for, isn't it? To have that security and that secure feeling again since you got there.
The reassurance.
But I must admit, if Del needed the loo this whole time,
I know,
because he wants to go out, I would have found another way to go. I mean, surely it's easy for guys to go. You know, he could have peed in the sink. I mean, it's not hygienic, but, you know, if you really had to go, you didn't want to go outside, that is an option for you.
Yeah, or out the window or something. It's so easy for men.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand. Like,
exactly.
I would say because he says he'll wait till the morning and he doesn't just pee, is that he needs a poop. Del asks now,
Well, is it safe for me to go to the Carsey?
and the chief encourages him. So this is where Rodney acts all cool and makes fun of Del.
Well, go on in, Del. There's nothing to be frightened of now.
Del puts on his camel coat and heads out, and this is where Rodney slams the door and locks all the door like a cartoon character.
He's such a worrier.
That made me think of The Mask when he goes out the park and like puts all the locks.
Yeah, and he locks up the whole park. Yeah. That's really funny.
We get a brief cut to Del running outside in the rain and slipping through the door, and then it cuts back to the inside of the cottage, and we see Rodney is full of all the front and bullshit with the chief, pretending he wasn't scared at all. Grandad is there, so he rolls his eyes dramatically.
Grandad always rains on Rodney's parade when he's bullshitting and saying something that's not true. I love that.
I know. I mean, Grandad's obviously knows that Rodney's like full of shit. Rodney's trying to tell the chief that he is sympathetic to the escaped man's mental issues, and Grandad has a really funny line here.
Sympathise, but he's a psycho.
Have you any idea what a psycho, as you so eloquently put it, is?
Of course I have. He's a geezer what dresses up in his mother's clothes.
So this is a nice little reference to a horror movie. Grandad's referring to the 1960 Alfred Hitchcock movie here, which we all know is a landmark horror film. So we get a nice referral there. So we cut back outside into the rain and we see the man sneaking ominously around the perimeter of the house in the pouring rain. Again, why would a gamekeeper do this?
Why?
Yeah. He approaches the Kazi and then Adele opens the door very quickly in a cartoon fashion, smashes it into him. There's a big audience reaction here. Del turns back to close the door and he does a double take.
Rodney Grandad! Come out here, quick! Bring some room!
Why does he call Grandad and Rodney and not the chief in that moment? That's the thing I don't understand.
So we cut to the outside of the police station. It starts on the lit sign and we can hear Rodney describing an event that didn't happen.
Then I tied him up good and tight and we bundled him in the back of the van.
You say you caught him single-handed?
Yeah.
So we see Rodney and Grandad and just 3 police officers total. The police seem really impressed. But this is where we hear that the Dell is actually back at the cottage.
I mean, in reality, there's no way that would happen. You'd all go together.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that to happen.
Yeah, it's also like interesting because so they had to set up that they bring some rope and presumably they bundled him in the van and they drove, just the 2 of them drove to the police station with the madman in the back of the van. Very dangerous, very risky, but obviously they had to set it up that way because if the police had gone to the cottage they would have been like, that's the guy.
That's not him. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, in reality, it wouldn't make any sense that the chief of security wouldn't have been the one to take him to the police station and leave the 3 of them in the cottage.
No.
That clearly would have been what would have happened if it had been real.
That's fine. It's still great. So the sergeant actually says that there could be a medal in it for Rodney. So they all they brace themselves and they prepare to take a look at the prisoner, but then things take a dark turn.
This is no escaped lunatic. This is Tom Whitten, the gamekeeper. And you shouldn't have gagged him like that. He suffers from asthma.
And he also shouldn't have been skulking around outside then, should he?
If he suffers from asthma, what's he doing? I mean, I don't know. Asthma's not triggered by this, but you shouldn't really be skulking around in the dark and the rain.
You shouldn't ever be doing that, to be honest.
No, whether you have asthma or not.
Situation where you should be skulking around someone's house looking in the windows to check on them.
Wasn't the gamekeeper worried that he was going to get killed by the murderer? I just thought of this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's just that obviously that is purely there to be a red herring for the audience, of course.
That's fine.
But in reality, you would never do that.
Love it anyway. But anyway, Rodney and Grandad look really horrified and confused. And then Rodney thinks and he's like,
Hold on a minute. The chief of security from the institution itself said it was him.
This is where the Sarge is so unreasonable. He yells,
What chief of security?
What's his name? Robson.
The escaped man hit him on the head, then stole his uniform and his identity papers.
This is where the police suck. Because, why didn't they just tell him? I mean, this is not realistic, I don't think. But the police can't get mad at these innocent people. They didn't know, and they weren't even given a description that would have helped.
No, exactly. Again, I feel like this bit is something that they had to write in, obviously, for the plot to work.
Yeah.
And had to have this great scene we're about to get with Dell and the lunatic. But yeah, of course, in reality, that this would just not happen at all.
No, it wouldn't. So here we cut to that final scene then at the cottage. So it cuts straight from Grandad and Rodney looking horrified to the chief, who we now know is the escaped lunatic, stroking his axe in the cottage. So I think we know that this is going to be our final scene. The camera pans out and we see that he and Dell are just alone hanging out at the cottage. The audience immediately get an explanation as to why Dell stayed back, which is Robson told him it was imperative that they stayed back to make out his report immediately, and Dell had to stay with him to give him the information.
Which, again, is clearly bullshit.
Yeah. So Dell's all chill now, and he turns his back on the axe murderer to get a drink. Just as he says it's a full moon, and we see a wave of change come over the axe murderer.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. So I'm going to refer to him as the axe murderer now instead of the chief. He looks menacingly at Dell while he approaches him quickly from behind with the axe. Dell turns around just in time to hand him a drink, so it diffuses the tension for a second. So, but we know now as the audience that Dell is in danger. Dell is about to find out too. The phone rings. That works. Is the power back on now? It is, right?
I don't know actually if they're still using candles because the lighting's kind of the same all the way through. And I don't know. Yeah, and I thought it was a bit of a risk to call Dell.
I think that too.
Because knowing that he's with the axe murderer. I mean, it would have been better if they just turned up, because as soon as they told Dell anything on the phone, the axe murderer would have got wind probably from the.
He's what?
Well, maybe they just know that Dell is really good at bullshitting and they thought this would give him the best chance of survival if he's aware. Because, you could see before he was aware, he was turning his back on him and stuff. So I'm sure they just thought. True. I mean, this happens a lot in movies and TV shows. People find out that they're in danger from a phone call and then they have to act cool, right? With the person.
Yeah,
so
true.
And Dell tries to keep his cool, but you can see the change in just his face. But the really good acting from David Jason here, the quiver in his voice, the panic that he tries to mask, and the great camera work here because we see the chief looking at the axe in the foreground of the shot as Dell is finding out he's the axe murderer, which is
it's brilliant.
really good. So after the phone call, the axe murderer has completely lost character. He asks Del calmly at first.
Do you like fish?
What?
Do you like fish? I only like living fish. Fish that swim in the rivers and the seas. I don't like people that kill them.
When he hears that the axe murderer does not like people who kill fish, he tries to pretend that he doesn't either. So he says it's Grandad and Rodney that were fishing, and the tension is growing, and he starts to look over at Del, and Del's backing away. So we see here that Del is picking up on axe murderer's cues, and he waits for the answer before he answers the next question. So make sure that the axe murderer likes snooker before he says he likes snooker.
Yes.
So Del is has a very great adaptable personality, perfect for this situation, because he's able to think on his feet, bullshit quickly, he's believable, and he plays along with the axe murderer and says that they are going to use this table, the dining table, as a snooker table. So this is something that a lot of people mention here, the helicopter sound.
Thank God for that.
Is it a police helicopter?
No, you're all right. It's Barrett's.
So this is a commonly misunderstood reference. It gets a massive laugh from the audience and even some light applause. I didn't get this when I was a kid.
Neither did I. I still don't know, to be honest.
Let me tell you then. So this is a reference to Barrett Homes advert from the 1970s. They had a guy flying a big helicopter advertising Barrett Homes, basically. When I was a kid, I thought he said, it's sparrows.
I thought you said parrots.
Oh, okay. It could, but sparrows with the Cockney accent sounds similar to parrot. Yeah, so we both thought it was like birds. I still thought it was funny when he said it's sparrows.
Yeah, of course. Because it's such a stupid excuse if that's what he said.
Yeah.
But that isn't what he said.
But yeah, so now we've established it's Barrett's. When they turn back to the snooker table, Del looks so physically exhausted. The axe murderer tells him he can break. So Del has to improvise again. He wants to take the axe off the axe murderer. So he calmly suggests,
why don't I put that somewhere safe? Because you won't be able to hold your cue properly with that in your hand, will you?
So we get this very scary moment where Del looks so vulnerable and the murderer is just death staring him.
Yeah, he really looks like he's going to kill him in that moment, and then he suddenly changes his tone completely, right?
I suppose you're right.
And then I think it's very clever here they had Del say,
you know it makes sense.
Which is Del's like sales tactic. So after this, the chief is actually very chill. He starts to play and enjoy himself a bit with the cues. He does have a little bit of a rant here about why he hates to win.
I don't like winning. I really like losing.
And I love that Del turns that to his advantage. It's brilliant.
It's so here.
Although, would he have any money on him? Is what I wonder.
Well, he stole all of the institution guy. I don't know why that guy would have a load of cash, but yeah.
No,
I did always think that when I was a kid. I was like, does this guy actually have money? And is Del gonna
money to pay to Del? Yeah, if they bet.
Is the game gonna finish before Rodney arrives? Del is so typical Del here, coming up with a way to make money out of an axe murderer.
Yes, exactly. That's brilliant. Exactly what you'd expect Del to do.
Yeah. So then the only thing, I think this last scene is very well performed by these two actors, and the whole episode is great. But I do think that the end is a little bit anticlimactic because it just like fades out on them. They're just playing fake snooker, and then it ends just like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we always said it was always difficult to end the episodes, right?
It's true. But I think in the future, like John Sullivan especially was into these huge, big endings that don't need an explanation, you know? So maybe they could have ended it with the axe murderer like swinging at him or something and just frozen the scene.
Yeah, that's true.
But either way, it's still such a great episode. I'm not going to find fault with it.
It is. And it's crazy they don't mention it again. This is something you think you'd talk about for a long time afterwards, that you were nearly murdered by a crazy axe murderer.
Right. I mean, there is actually a bit of a shift, isn't there, in future episodes? There's a lot of times where they talk about other things that have happened, you know? Like even that very last scene in in Time on Our Hands, when they walk off into the sunset, they mention like, oh, what about the time that you...
Yeah, some of the things that happened.
And they're actually things that happened in the show. But you're right, this episode is almost like you could just play it on its own and it never needed any other context because it's never mentioned again.
Well, it's actually interesting. The only scene that has any mention of anything in the past is the scene that was cut because they mentioned the Deep Sea Diver's Watch and the Tim.
Right, yeah, good point. Yeah, I understand why they cut that scene, but if you think, let's say they had left it in, apart from that moment on the motorway driving, there was no daylight shown in this episode.
No.
Yeah, it was all...
That's probably why it feels more like a horror film, though.
So that's... Also, I do think that scene's completely unnecessary. So I do see why it was cut for time. And we were back in the 30-minute time slots where John Sullivan was struggling still to cut his episodes down. It says in a lot of the books that his scripts ran at about 39 minutes and he was always having to chop off bits. Anyway, that is it for the episode breakdown. So shall we move on to the awards for this week?
And guess what? He's only one.
Good. So as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we will start with our Plonker of the Week.
Don't be a plonker.
So for Plonker of the Week, we will each nominate a plonker, and we will discuss and decide who wins. So dude, who are you nominating for the plonker?
I'm going to nominate the police sergeant at the end of the episode for yelling at them for not knowing that was the axe murderer.
Yeah, I have a different one, but I'm sure you're not going to like it because it's...
Is it Grandad?
No, it's the other police officer. So the police officer who tells them about the murderer being on the loose. Now, obviously, that's a very funny bit in the way he delivers it. But as a police officer, the way he tells them is like a ghost story. Yeah. And if you were trying to keep people calm and be nice, you wouldn't do that. That's a very ominous way to tell people that and then be like, have a nice weekend. Like, it's just not a very professional way to tell them that. But if it's not either of them, it's got to be Rodney because of his behavior during Monopoly.
Yeah.
And him bragging about catching the guy when he hadn't.
Yeah. But, those are all excusable behaviors for his age and for to be honest, if I was playing Monopoly with Grandad and Dell and they were pulling that kind of shit, I might have flung the board as well at that age. I don't feel like it's Rodney. I agree with your, like we spoke about earlier, he had plenty of opportunities to not only tell him the description, but to tell him that he would be dressed like the chief of security probably, and that he was very smart. But yeah, my guy, the sergeant, he's such a dick, yelling at them. You shouldn't have gagged him like that, as if you're not
so
gonna
he's like dick of the week.
Yeah. maybe we should just nominate, could we say the police are the plonker of this episode?
Yeah, the police are the plonkers. Yeah, they are, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's
I mean, actually, the gamekeeper's a pretty good candidate as well, walking around like that in the dark.
Yeah, he kind of asked to get bundled in the back of the van.
He did.
What's he gonna do? Sneak up on Dell while he's on the toilet as well? Why?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Yeah, that's the way that he went about trying to catch them out or whatever he was trying to do. I don't know what he was trying to do. Was really dumb. So actually, I know I'm changing mine. It's him. He's the plonker.
Well, we can only give one, so let's give it to Tom Whitten, the gamekeeper. Okay. Plonker of the week.
This is Tom Whitten, the gamekeeper.
So Jenny, you have selected the best line of this episode. So what have you got?
Yeah, this is really tricky because there's so many great lines. I ended up just choosing "It's a typhoon." Good idea, Rodney. Put the kettle on, we'll have a nice cup of tea. That's my favourite line. But there's plenty of honourable mentions. You want to honourably mention any?
Yeah. So one of my favourite lines. I love this line. Is Grandad obviously saying, "You might be mad. You'd have to be bloody stupid to be out there." That's a great line. Yeah. I also love the there's 3 of us. It's me and you. Don't worry, I'll look after you.
Yeah.
Those 2 lines are also really good. But yes, I agree. The line you chose is also very good.
Yeah. And you, Heather, have selected best moment of the week. This will be another tough one.
Well, for me, this episode, the bit that I relate to the most is the Monopoly scene. that interaction between the 3 of them is so spot on for what it's like to play Monopoly with your family.
Yes.
Piccadilly!
Yeah, that's perfect. I would say only honourable mentions because of the actual theme of the episode. Maybe the moment when Rodney draws the curtain back and the face is at the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, that Monopoly is a really standout, memorable moment from this episode.
I wish we got to see the Trotters play more board games, actually, in later episodes. We didn't really get to see any.
I know, we talked about that when we did Christmas Crackers, if you remember. That would have been such a great way to sum up a British Christmas if they were all playing a board game instead of going to the bar. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it's literally Grandad playing drafts in Big Brother on a chessboard, and then this. I don't think we get any of the games, do we?
Just cards, maybe? Yeah.
Okay, so drink up. We're leaving.
Okay, so that about wraps it up for this week. Join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 3, Episode 4, Yesterday Never Comes. Until then...
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.